because we could have gone live on the important news that it was in fact Wales. I wish it would just go live instantly. Then we could have started with that. Bruce is struggling to connect, which might be it might be the New Zealand internet showing some.
No, I know
some
the
sort
reason.
Of do you know the reason?
No, the internet antennas on New Zealand were on the tower. They smashed the tower,
yes,
so internet is down.
Yes. Well, that's why I said, Rev. That's why I say it feels worse now, because somehow when the tower first was pulled over, was it last week? I thought, oh dear, that's sad. But now I think, no, actually, it's really bad news. It's not on. It's not cricket. So where should we start? Tell me what we know. I know two. Oh, here we go. Oh, towerless. Yeah, towerless indeed. That's what I'm just saying. It feels worse now. It feels worse without your tower. When the news was first announced, it was, well, that's terrible. And now it's just like, actually, no, that's really crappy.
It is really crappy. Yeah. It's, but the mayor shall learn that she's made a little mistake. You see the comments on that video. Hundreds of people around the world alleging all sorts of things that I would never allege because she would sue me. But I can't help it if they allege it. And who knows if it's true? It doesn't. Though she's dragged the reputation of her council and herself through the mud because she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the community, doesn't care about the district, the town. She just, she's off. She's having a ball.
And did you see it depart or...
You'll see as prime ministers replacing the lady that it's there.
Oh, yes, she's got just what we need for that. But, yeah, I didn't see it actually go down because it came down and they budgeted $20,000 to pull the tower down and it took 90 minutes. So that's some pretty good rate, isn't it? Whoever pulled that down is earning a lot of money. In fact, I asked them, what are you going to do with the 20 grand? And he laughed and said, I wish it wasn't even a tenth that. So where's the other 18 grand gone? One makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Come on.
And what's that
You're
worth
wrong,
Oh, he's wrong.
With all the health and safety measures that you have to take, I'm wondering if 20,000 would be enough. Come on, look at the amount of vests, helmets.
Yeah, but speaking of health and safety, we had this tower that stood there for over 20 years through earthquakes and hurricanes and things, but apparently it was too dangerous to leave up for one more second. So they knocked it down, and now if you go out there and look at the ground, there's shards of glass poking out of the ground where the tower fell over, the windows broke, and they just sort of scooped some soil over it. So the actual massive shards, if you tripped on that, you'd probably cut an artery and bleed to death. But apparently that's safer than a tower. Oh, God.
There's a happy outlook. Such a cheery disposition.
So that's a lawsuit on the waiting, right? If someone falls around and gets a cut, so it's
but they don't care because it's all insurance. They're insured, or they just dig deeper into the ratepayers, the taxpayers' pockets.
So here's a question then: is there any way to publicly get the actual figure that company charged? That must be public accessible for the accounts to see what was.
Yeah, we have like a FOIA. We have the FOIA thing, like it's called the Official Information Act here. But the problem is they would simply redact that number on the grounds of commercial sensitivity.
That's just horsecock.
Yeah, but they don't play by the rules here.
Clearly, yeah, true.
No,
clearly,
they play by the rules, only not the rules that you would expect. It's a different set of a rule book. Come on, Bruce.
I checked the official documentation. It says rules are for thee, but not for me. That's what it says on the
there you go.
Council statement.
Very nice to have Louis back. Very, very nice.
Yes,
to have Louis back. I haven't seen Louis for a while. And just because you're back, Louis, I can mention Gatwick because you're here. Because I know how much you love it. Blow me down if Ian hasn't had a Freedom of Information request which accidentally mentions some form of cyber attack at the same time frame. Funny old thing. Imagine that. Who would have thought it? But anyway, that's more to come on that. But there's another line.
Let me guess. Cyber attack promoted by the Russians with the help of some Chinese hackers.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Come on,
I think it's just pure. It's just pure money. It's just pure
Come
money.
on, that's the perfect script for a new movie. Gatwick, Chinese hackers, Russian sponsorship. Come on.
Well, if you want to write it, I'm sure they'll come. Isn't that something like the phrase goes? So come on. I know. I don't think Louis has done one. I don't think Bruce has done one. But I know two people here have done videos mentioning this new DJI thing. Has it come out? When are we buying it? And I think Mark can tell us how legal it is in England.
Have you heard how loud it is? You're going to hear it coming. No. Put it that way. Have you heard the video? Jesus. The word banshee has never better been used to describe something. She's be loud from what we've heard. And look, it was a mobile phone recording it. Drones do usually sound loud, not that loud. Rumors are next week, so there's a lot. We've even got pricing of some of the accessories now. They're selling a mid-frame, which is good. What we've seen is good. Battery pricing was a little lower than I was expecting, $130. Don't get me wrong, it's still insane for pricing, but it's less than the $160 that we'd seen on the previous products. They're selling a full outer bumper, or I don't think it's right to call it ducts. It's not ducted. I think it's just protected props. So it's got a full replacement bumper. There's a full top shell, which does explain the modularity of the product. $9 for props, which people have got a bit upset about, but DJI have always been charging that, and you're not going to break too many of them on a drone like that, So, yeah, next week, the price remains to be seen. The bit I still don't fully get, though, is every marketing image I've seen still has this with this motion controller.
Right.
I'm really not sure who this is aimed for. And I'm beginning to think it really isn't FPV.
What was
so you've got a bit of a strange contrast.
Ian, what was that drone that DJI had a few years ago that also had that very small one that was aimed at education?
Tello.
The Tello. Wouldn't this be a Tello too? So,
no, because
having that controller makes sense for.
Yeah, but all of the noise on this is, if you watch all of the marketing stuff that's leaked, it's in the hands of the KOLs. They've already started showing it with a guy on a motorbike. I can already predict what you're going to see on the marketing. You're going to get them showing you how this drone will follow you when you're an active person. The surfers, the bikers. This is the perfect drone for you, just like every other drone was the perfect drone for you. It's funny. You're going to have a real contrasting product here. We're going to have a drone which looks very basic, although there could be a lot in the AI side of it. And I don't mean AI, but more in the intelligent software side of it than we've taken into account for, like in the tracking and stuff, paired up with a top high-end goggle. And this is the thing. There's a bit of a mixture. Okay, they're going to sell it with the V2s as well. We know that. But I don't know. It feels very mixed messages. If they released a whole new top-end goggle with the Mavic 3, the best drone they make, you'd sort of get your head around that. If they released a new goggle with a new ear unit, you understand that market. But they're releasing a high-end
something quite disturbing. The best drone they do is the Mavic 3.
Well, it's their best consumer drone, Louis. It works now. It's fine. But you know what I mean? It's their top-tier product in the consumer space, regardless of what we think about it. But what this looks like is you're launching what appears to be a very basic and limited FPV drone with a top high-end goggle. So it's very contradictory. The whole thing is a bit unclear.
Aren't we in the stage of the evolution of the drone market that you stop having multi-purpose drones and start to having single function drones? So a drone that is aimed at a specific operation.
It does. Yeah, it's starting to feel like that. Yeah, very much so, Louis. Yeah, DJI's whole market has gone that way. And I don't know. they're going to be charging us a lot of money for a drone that's going to have a lot less functions and features than any of the others.
Look at what they're doing with the M30.
Yeah.
They are not spreading too much, but do we really need 3 or 4 different versions of the M30? According to our usual way of thinking, that a drone can do whatever we want, and the M30 is quite segmented market that is aiming with those. So I don't know if they're trying to bring that. Come on, the Mini 3, it's a great all-purpose drone, but I don't know if by slacking or just plain laziness, why don't they release the SDK support for the Mini 3? Why don't they release access to put your own apps on the controller?
I don't think they want you to do it now, Louis. I don't think they have.
Yeah, so they're funneling the purpose of each drone.
Yeah, and they're going backwards in some respects. I said to someone a comment I posted the other day, which was people were saying, "Oh, is it going to work at Betaflight, this new A unit and stuff?" And I've gone, DJI are not a company who are known to conform to other people's standards. Now, people often sort of say DJI is like Apple, but what Apple tend to do is Apple are the ones that tend to set the standards the PC industry follows. And this has happened time and time again. It's not once, it's not 5 times, it's 10 plus times that Apple have added something new or changed something and the PC industry has followed. So whilst Apple can get a lot of hate for that at times, they were the first to remove the floppy disk, the first to move to CD, all this stuff. DJI tend to be the company that does their own thing, but no one else follows. And that's the funny thing about the way DJI does it. They don't conform to anyone's standards. They do it all the way they want to do it, yet no one else then follows them in. The DJI way of doing it, there's nothing that DJI does in their own way that has become a standard. It's all pain for the person using it.
And answering the question that Gary just put it on the screen. Many people will buy that drone if they have a purpose to use it. Period. You just plug and play. The mass. Come on, look at the Hotel Evo 2 drone that has a replacement payload. So you can switch between the camera, the other camera, and the thermal camera. I wonder how many separate units have they sold to switch. So having one drone that does it all and is very targeted to a specific operation. It's one way to go. Come on. Not that I like it. No, I want to think around with that. But it's the way that things are going to be going forward. Gone are the days that we would get our gimbals and put the GoPros and then the Canons and then the whatever camera would fit or the drone could take off with. So I'm seeing more and more limited purpose drones getting out, and it's one way to sell more drones. Come on, if you need a drone to do thermal, you buy a drone with thermal camera. If you need to do a drone for those FPV style filming, you don't get a. Come on, Ian, be reasonable. Would you do some of those flights that the FPV guys do with your Inspire 2?
No. There's no in between.
That's the point.
No, I think it's got a market. Look, you know, and I know they are going to sell this as the next best consumer drone that everyone must have, and that's where it sort of feels weird. But I'm planning on ordering one. I want the goggles anyway because I sold my V2s. I'll be honest, if I'm going to spend $600-700 on a set of goggles, I'll go all in for the kit because the pricing of the kit is looking about $400 more. And I'll review the product independently. I know I'm not going to be sold it by DJI, that's for sure. Sent it by DJI, that's for sure. I got told that. Yeah, it is a very strange launch. That it feels odd. Lots of leaks though, more than we're used to seeing. Actually, you know, it usually starts with. I'm waiting for Argos. Argos should have.
Hang on, let's message me, lad. Hang on. He's working using Argos right now.
Why? Think about it a little. If they're entering or they're trying to create a new market, wouldn't they do and create all the buzz that they're trying to do? Because all those. So it's. Come on, you've been on that school too. That's digital marketing. It's digital marketing 101. Come on.
Well, look, you know, if I take the FPV drone, and this is probably why I'm not going to get sent one by DJI, because I'm going to talk about what they discussed with me when I was involved with the FPV drone before I stepped out. And their KOL marketing materials is very much going after people who ride motorcycles, Mavic users, and action style people. DJI put together anyone who's a KOL or asked to get involved with launches, they sort of have a marketing pitch of who they're going to sell this product to. This is nothing new. I've seen this with motorbikes over the years. If you look at some of the big successful brands in the UK now, Triumph very much modeled themselves off Harley Davidson. They're not selling you a bike, they're selling you a look, a way of life. It's a jacket. It's a 40-year-old man who wants to break free from the shackles of life and relive his youth. Now he's suddenly got
midlife crisis.
Hey, I have a cabrio. I have a cabrio. Should I apply to be a beta tester of that thing? A cabrio can follow me inside the car. Come on.
Yeah, and that's not Triumph. Not Triumph. DJI were like that. So with the FPV drone, they were looking for new user bases, people who are action sports, people who want to have a more exciting FPV experience, but with all of the DJI protection. And actually, that's what that drone did really well. What it did badly was the bloody image quality. It didn't live up to what it could have been.
Come on.
It was shocking.
Come on. Why are you being picky? Why are you being picky? The image... Come on, the target audience of that drone thinks that that's the best thing after sliced bread. Come on, it's wonderful.
Yeah, but okay, we'll leave that there. But we'll have to see. I think this product will probably be very good from an image quality point of view. I think it's going to be interesting. It looked loud, though. It sounded loud, I should say, not looked loud. If I could tell how it sounded from the look, that would be very
good.
Well, we know how those whoops sound because they got the struts that interrupt the airflow. It's a siren, 4 sirens and a camera, basically.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the video, Bruce. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the video, Bruce? I don't know if you did.
But come on, Ian. Look at my profile picture. Am I not a candidate to have that drone?
Yeah.
You're a yuppie in a mini. Look, he's in a mini midlife crisis.
10 years ago you were, but minis are so out of fashion now, mate.
Yeah. But no, we'll have to see. But the belief is next week. What else is there to see other than DJI? If they're going to launch it, we should see the website go up this week because they normally do a 5 to 7 day countdown, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So it's not exciting, you know.
But let's be honest, it'll outsell every other brand combined in the first week of its launch. It'll outsell every single one of them.
Probably day. To be honest.
Probably the
first we'll just wait for the EA Sheen version. It'll be cheaper.
Yeah, and it was interesting that I saw Autel have reduced some pricing. I haven't read the email actually.
Yeah.
I've seen the email in my inbox, but I haven't actually read it. Where is it?
Hang on. Yeah, just while you're there, I'll almost make a point. Almost.
Is it aerobatic, Ian? Can it flip? Can it roll?
We don't know. We believe the rumor is it's got no acro. The rumor is no acro.
Oh,
so
yeah, it's all right. You can continue now. Go on, mate.
There
I
it
was
is.
going to say, so this is going to be really good then for doing those indoor shoots. This is what this is hopefully will be good at.
As long as you don't need audio.
Oh, well, let's face it, right? Who records the audio of a drone flying around anyway? Because you had a microphone on it, audio never gets prop noise. You record the background noise, elsewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be potential
in another country.
There is something interesting. I was talking very briefly to one of the guys. I can't remember which one it was. He's one of the Cine Whoop makers. So they're one of the, I think it was Quad Labs or one of those guys on Facebook. And he did say something rather interesting, was every single drone they sell, and they're a viable, quite a large business now, has DJI FPV in it. They do not make a drone without it. So whilst we do sort of think about the DJI FPV system as a hobby thing, it has basically completely taken over the cine drone style market for those flyers. And I do wonder if DJI are looking at air unit sales and thinking, can we get aircraft sales into that and make more money? I am wondering if they think.
Look at one thing. How much does one of those cine drones costs?
They're not
in excess of 5,000.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
So,
but I'm thinking, there's the old term, isn't it? It only has to be just good enough for 80% of the time. You've got these cine drones where they fly, a Red on or an Ari or one of the smaller ones, or Black Magic even, and you do wonder, probably 80% of the flights they do probably don't need that camera. Some of them will, but 80% of the flights don't.
Don't say that. You'll be hanged by all the cine producers out there that have the Aries, the Reds, and the Black Magics. Come on.
But you're
not wrong though.
No.
And by the way, I think that for some of the biggest online producers like Netflix, they demand a certain range of cameras.
Yeah. The specific codec numbers they want. Yeah. But again, it's going to be interesting. It's not an exciting product. There's nothing in this exciting. But I don't think, will there be an exciting product from DJI again? Here's an interesting thought.
As it's not exciting, you're going to buy one. Yeah.
Yes.
I see the logic on that. Come on, Ian.
Well, someone's got to give a truthful review. Someone's got to put a truthful review on YouTube.
So here's the best thing about it, because to be honest, most of the specs didn't bother me. The only one that I really cared about was its weight. That was the only spec that I was really looking at to see where they put it weight-wise. And then you could take that, look at its weight and then go, right, how can I fly it in either the UK or across Europe? And there are 3 ways to fly it in the UK, 3 different ways you can fly this aircraft, which is bonkers, to be honest. You've got the A3 open category, where you can fly it far from people and 50 meters separation from uninvolved people. Operator ID, flyer ID. And I think that's the same for Europe as well, isn't it, Louis? Under a basic A3 certificate, same thing applies in the EU. We then have Article 16, which you don't have to pay for unless you just join the BMFA or FPV UK and go through their documents on Article 16. And they can fly 30 meters separation from uninvolved people. Does include overflight though. So with Article 16, you can actually overfly. If you're 32 meters high, you could overfly people. However, the best one, and this actually makes the A2C of C useful because you can now fly it literally, as long as you do not intentionally overfly people. So I can't intentionally fly it over Ian and Bruce. You can fly next to them. You can take off right in front of yourself. As long as you do not overfly them intentionally, you can fly it quite happily, which is brilliant. It'd be like flying your Mini 2 to a degree, The only thing is no intentional overflight of uninvolved people. So no flying over roads with cars on them, no flying over footpaths with people on it. However, if you're down the beach and you're whizzing around, staying out of the way of people, even if it's only by like a metre or 1 foot, as long as you don't directly overfly them intentionally, you're fine. Just crack on. But there's a subtle bit as well about the follow me mode. Because it falls into the sub 500 grams transitional weight, you can also do the follow me mode. And as long as the remote pilot is within 50 meters of the aircraft, the follow me is legal, which is quite nice. Of course, it's FPV. You must have a spotter with you for all of this as well, because it's FPV.
But how can you do a follow me if you've got goggles on? You'll trip over and kill yourself.
Well, no, you can have it follow someone else. It doesn't have to follow you, does it?
But it says me.
As long as you're within range, as long as you're within that separational distance, it could be following, as long as your spotter can see it. So you could be in a car driving down a country lane. As long as it doesn't deliberately overfly uninvolved people, you're fine.
You'll never have problems finding it because you'll hear it from about 2 nautical miles. So,
you won't be able to hear the remote ID over the props.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll cause noise complaints. I wonder if it'll be a fantastic Karen finding machine. Sounds like it's going to have an issue, doesn't it? Because
do we think it will comply with the C ratings?
Not because of the noise issue. Probably that will be where it will fail. But it's in the transitional weight class.
Still, do we think DJI will apply a C rating?
No. They can't.
No.
Even if they wanted to. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't do it.
For Europe?
No, there's no final releases there, or there's no way where you can send it. And Europe did kick back. So YASA did kick back the C ratings a couple of years. Yeah, so why bother?
It's interesting, ain't it? Because you've got the whole remote ID thing in the US, and I haven't really kept up with it too much, but I have dived my head back in because we were all following this we were all early doors on this and shouting and screaming about it, yet now it comes. And obviously it's the 22nd of September or 20th of September.
Something like that, yeah.
Pushed back, hasn't it?
And obviously,
I don't know. Bruce mentioned
the US is still very much in place. Nothing has changed there yet. Whereas obviously everything's been kicked into the long grass in the UK and Europe. There's just no sight or sound of this. You're seeing some modules appear, and there was a module that was shown $200, and
go autopilot for that.
It's not going to be legally to comply. No open source software will be able to comply. It's period. No. If you read it, it cannot be tampered with. Open source.
It has been built from the ground up to be made compliant by the manufacturer.
Gone through certification, because the way I've read it is no open source software, no flight stack, nothing can comply that with the user can affect it.
I can direct you to the presentation that was done by Trich.
Hang on, I'll put it up.
And the goal is to have it being made compliant by the manufacturer of each of the modules.
What module? The
remote ID modules.
Right. So, but that's
not all open source. But then the lockdown of the code is done separately.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's made compliant by that.
Because there's been an interesting talk of the Express LRS developers have been looking at it, because basically every Express LRS receiver has Wi-Fi on board already. So
but as soon as you start broadcasting a remote ID, you've put a big piece of latency in the protocol that's famous for its low latency.
Well, it's actually a different chipset that transmits, so it shouldn't affect it because it's the other chips.
Yeah, but it's not going to be able to receive while it's broadcasting at that power level right next to the thing.
It's not going to like it, is it?
No, it's going to put the latency will become very erratic, or at least every 1 second there'll be a few hundred milliseconds where you get nothing, and that's not going to be very good. No one would use it.
And that is why Autopilot went ahead and created their own module. and one of the versions is based on the famous ESP286.
Yeah.
The 26, yeah, the famous old one. Yeah, it's on the 32. Yeah. No, it's.
So here's a question, Louis. How does that module comply with the patent that's been created, or where does it stand with that patent that's been created?
Wow.
I think that has been worked out with that.
Worked out as in someone is getting a royalty fee or not?
I don't know those details. I could go after that.
I would love to know.
I think it's important we find out. Yeah, we need to know, Louis.
I would love to know, because obviously ArduPilot's open source, Louis. I'm a huge supporter of ArduPilot. What I'm more interested in is the person who has sat on the committee and helped develop these rules and then patented the module financially benefiting from that.
He hasn't patented the module. He's patented loads of
the
ideas.
And the thing is, without knowing that a license has been obtained, everybody that then works with that risks being sued for patent infringement.
Bit of a downer. There's a collective shopping take.
Sorry, Louis, but I have a real bee in my bonnet that this feels like insider trading. Nothing to do with ArduPilot. The whole fact that a person who was on the committee deciding the standard was then able to get a patent for that himself individually.
Oh, come on. You're don't be so bad. Come on.
It's facts, Louis. It's just facts. The history speaks for itself.
That person was acting on the best interest of the community. So
no, they weren't. Otherwise, they would use their patent to stop remote ID.
If that was done in the best interest,
I don't know who patented it. I don't know anything.
Kenji Suikara or something.
If it's been done in the best interest of the community, then it should be set up as an whatever it needs to be, an organization, a non-profit that is in the hands of the community for the community, and not in the hands of one individual person.
Oh, come on. You're such a naysayer. Come on, Ian.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Well, the patent part of it absolutely stinks, but you're right. Several modules have popped up.
So what do we think this is going to cost, Louis, this module? Has there been a rough ballpark on this? Do you know?
I don't know, but it's going to be, as always, the goal is to make it very cheap. I believe Philip no, come on. I believe Philip is also involved in that to build their own variant.
But here's the real kicker. The FAA has accepted the ASTM standard, except they want enhanced tamper-proof. Has to be tamper-proof. How can you make an open source product tamper-proof so that someone can't change the ID or whatever they want to spoof the system?
That's what I was trying to say. So the internal code is open source, but then it has to be locked by cryptographic means so that it won't be tamper-proof.
Who gets to lock it?
The manufacturer of the module.
But why can't a user just put their own cryptographic stuff on there? And what cryptographic standard are they using? And how do you know it's a valid encryption? Because anyone can use their own key and produce an encrypted.
Don't start poking me for more details because I don't know more details.
This is such a flawed concept. Such a flawed concept. It's going to come back and bite them on the bum. Did you see Sean's video where apparently with Freedom Coalition, they're talking about it's going to push it out anyway? It's almost, I think, Dave from the FPV Freedom Coalition said, it looks like they're going to push it out. So that what we predicted is almost certainly going to come to pass.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I started to watch it, but my kids were making too much noise, so I had to stop. Because there's some huge holes, isn't there, in this for FPV? There's some massive problems in the law for. Okay, number one, you can't do any commercial operation without remote ID. That's the first thing. Number two, what is the specific issue with FPV? I can't remember what it was.
I don't know there's anything particular with FPV apart from the final rule says that the operator must be able to see the drone at all times. But they've made a special carve out to say that a visual observer is acceptable. But the thing that basically happens in the US, nobody will be able to review sub 250 drones because you can't really put standard remote ID on a sub 250. But if you're flying 107, you've got to have standard remote ID on it. So, and also one thing that I noticed, everybody, if you're running under Part 107, you've got to register all your drones individually, $5 a pop. How many reviewers have you seen who've been registering all the drones they review? I don't think any of them have. So they're already in breach of the FAA regulation. Nothing to do with remote ID, but Part 107 says you must register every drone. So if you're reviewing a drone, you must have registered it for $5 with the FAA before you fly it on your YouTube channel for money. But the other thing is, if under Part 107, sub 250s even have to have remote ID, and as of the 16th, they must have standard remote ID. I don't know of a single sub 250, perhaps apart from the DJI Minis, which have remote ID.
Well, that's not going to work. I was going to show you my registered drone for that very thing. Now, what was Squishy saying about the Freedom Code Chad and the Red Cat? I guess they're coming out with well that's kind of long known, right, that they're going to bring out modules as well.
Yeah, and I'm not against anyone bringing out, the more the better. What we need is a market flooded with modules, because what that will do is drive down the cost. It'll drive innovation. What won't be good is if only 2 manufacturers make modules, because you won't see any innovation. You won't see them get smaller, lighter, improvements. It will just mean it'll stagnate. More people involved, the better on that side of things. Where the issue still arises is how big is this going to be? For most FPV, this won't be a problem. But then again, there's still a lot here that has to be known in how the integration is going to be needed in FPV. Most FPV craft don't have GPS. So there's an instant problem for most FPV.
Well, it's
so
not a problem because you're getting a bolt-on module with the GPS. It's not a problem.
But anyone who's put GPS on a free, you try and do beta flight rescue on a quad. It's really hard sometimes to find a place where the GPS will get a reliable signal on a small 5-inch quad. So with an add-on module, it's going to be even more difficult, and it has to work, or you're in trouble. You might not have it if it doesn't work.
It won't work with Avatar because it wipes out all of the GPS anyway. So actually, install it with Avatar. Everyone will be fine.
But it's the operator's responsibility to check and make sure it's working before they take off. So you'd be in breach of the rule.
I believe one of the provisions isn't that in case there is no signal, that the drone should not
standard
fly.
remote ID. Yeah.
So I was just seeing if
about the weight. The weight should not be a problem. Come on, it's only a problem of manufacturing a unit that can be as small as possible. So I don't see.
It's still a pain. You've got to power it from something. How are you going to power the damn thing? You plug in the balance lead or something? I don't know. There's not a sort of PowerPoint on most drones.
You're so old school, Bruce. Just plug it in on the USB.
Yeah.
USB. No, he's ripped all the USBs off mine, has he, Ian? His drones don't have USB anymore.
Ian's not the man to talk about USB. No. He is not the man to talk about USB. But Squishy's mentioning same people trying to profit from the regulations. Guess what's popped up in South Africa this week? Yes, you've guessed it. A group trying to push RID, and it's the same people that have driven the South African commercial industry into the... Well, actually... It's driven them away from compliance, because everyone's gone rogue, basically. Just about everyone here that flies commercially flies rogue. It's just too expensive to be compliant. But that group that caused those crazy rules are now getting their chops into RID, because look what's happening in America. We've got to have that here.
Did you watch that video on Facebook I sent you a link to, Gary, from New Zealand?
Which one was?
Yes,
Well, but then did you see Hero of the Week?
Yes. I spoke to the guy behind that on the weekend.
Did you? Where is see how well this is going. I want to share that tab, that doctor or professor, whoever he is.
Notice the mainstream media has not picked up on that at all.
No, I'm sure they haven't. Here he is. What a legend. Are you talking about this guy, Dr. Isaac Henderson?
Yeah, I didn't speak to him, but someone else who's involved orchestrated that release, and
Legend of the week. Well done, him.
But that happens in the UK as well. The CAA UK also promulgate things that are not actually regulatory, not rules, as far as I understand.
So what did they say?
There's that. Oh, he just said, I'll put the link in the chat. He just said, stop telling porkies. That's what he said, basically. He says you're talking rubbish, CAA, and hindering the industry, which is exactly, it happens the world over, isn't it? The world over is being hindered by.
I heard something very interesting on the weekend, but I can't tell you. I'll tell you when we're off air. There you go.
Just cover that part of the screen. Okay.
Well, just cover Bruce. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Everybody watching, both of you put your fingers in your ears and I'll tell you.
Yeah, all one of you. Reid, just remind me, what does it do for aviation safety? Just remind me what it does.
It lets us fly BVLOS, apparently, even though we're not allowed. And it although it has no electronic conspicuity value, it stops planes from crashing into us.
Oh, okay, good. All right, well, that's all right then. That's okay. That's good. As long as it does all those things. Then.
But I've renamed the remote IDs to Mug Me modules. You get a Mug Me module and you'll put it on your drone.
Mug Me module. Exactly. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's crazy. The whole thing stinks, and as you say, I don't think. Well, it'll be like CB radio, wasn't it? When eventually they had to give up trying to regulate it because everyone was doing it, and it was just too hard.
The thing that annoys me most is how complicit so many of the opinion makers in the hobby have been. We'll just do what they say. We'll just do what they say. No one's. Am I just old and ex-hippie or something? No one seems to want to stand up and rebel against this. At an individual level, lots of people do, but as like FPV Freedom Coalition, I've got to be totally brutally honest here, and I'll probably bruise some egos and make some people angry, but Dave Messina seems to be right in the pocket of the FAA compared to what many of the people that fly FPV feel. We have Kenji, we have Vic. They claim to be hobby representatives, but they're not. They're both commercial operators. And they two of them have a close relationship. So they don't represent the hobby. Dave Messina is supposed to represent the hobby, but I think the FPV Freedom Coalition still believes in that. Well, if we work cooperatively, we'll gain more traction. Has that ever worked for a company or places like the AMA and so forth? It's no. You've got to learn to take a stand. If you don't take a stand, you get stood on, you get squashed, you get trampled. That's been proven so often when dealing with regulators. And it's a shame that there's nobody in the USA who's prepared to take a stand and represent the hobby, vast members of the hobby who say, we don't want this. They're not prepared to do it. They just lie down and get walked on. And I really find that quite upsetting.
Hey, Bruce.
Siddar's got it there. Lanks definitely worked.
Have you noticed that the guys in US might be more concerned with other topics than some crazy guys flying a drone all around? They have other problems, so this thing just comes in a right.
Yeah, but the FAA is prosecuting, fining people for flying, without a Part 107, quite harmlessly. They've gone around and they've pinged a whole lot of YouTube channels who've been doing vlogs and things with drones, and they've pinged them and said, you got to get your 107 or we'll fine you heaps of money. And I'm thinking, this is kind of like really petty. There are people dying every day in the American airspace because manned aviation isn't doing what it's supposed to do. But they're picking on people flying drones. As we all know, not one life ever lost to the recreational use of multi-rotor drones. But they're focusing on stuff like this. It's ridiculous. Who should be focusing on what?
Aren't they the easy target? Come on, it's so much.
That's right. That's bad regulation, bad enforcement, and the fact that they've now created loopholes because the way they want to get around this thing where somebody buys a drone and they don't want to put standard remote ID in an FPV drone. So say you want to buy a bind and fly FPV drone as of next month. It'll have to have standard remote ID, and there's no way to implement that. So they've got this ARF option, home-built option, where as long as you do something to make the drone work, even if it's just plugging in the receiver, then that is exempt from that standard remote ID requirement. So any drone manufacturer, any camera drone manufacturer could now build a craft where they have the receiver and a little module that's sold separately that you push into the top of the drone, and suddenly it doesn't need standard remote ID anymore. When you make glaring great holes in the rules like that, why bother to have the damn rules in the first place?
Would a battery not be classed as...
No, I think a battery doesn't fall into that, because otherwise all drones would not have to have standard remote ID.
So we're going to put the receiver in the battery now, is what you're going to find, isn't it, on the DJI stuff? It is interesting because in the Europe, they specifically legislated against this. Because if I remember, under the EU regs, wasn't it a percentage? Something like 60% of it had to be built before it was classed as DIY or homemade. There was a percentage of components, wasn't there, Bruce, under the European?
Yeah, but I think crowds like Horizon Hobby have lobbied long and hard and said, look, we make all these bind and flies. How are we going to get around that? And they've just said, well, just put the receiver in a separate bag, make them plug it in, and it's no longer requires standard remote ID. But I mean, that can work right across the whole spectrum. And Autel could avoid having to have standard remote ID by just making a little orange module that plugged in the top of the drone contained the receiver. Bingo, done.
They already have that on one of the Evo drones. So, and they sell the speaker, the
yes, they do.
flashlight, the RTK. So now they just put another module out. For some manufacturers, that could be easy, but that's only on the Enterprise Evo 2, not on the other Evo 2s.
Yeah, the whole thing's a stuff up. It's gonna be gone.
Most of commercial drones have a USB port, so just plug it in on the USB and let it keep dangling from the USB port until it drops. Oops.
What I want to know is what happens when someone gets a flyaway or someone crashes because they lose the radio link. How do you prove it wasn't the remote ID that compromised the GPS signal or the RC signal at a critical point because of someone put a module in the wrong place on their drone? And who's liable when that happens?
With the operator, because he fitted the equipment incorrectly. Yeah.
How are you to know? All these drones are different. So you get a remote ID, you put it in what you think is the right place. You fly around.
You can't operate an aircraft in the national airspace if you don't know how it works properly.
But there's no way to tell until you fly away. You know, that's how you find out.
It's always the operator. The drone takes off under operator control and supervision. So it is assumed that the pilot in charge did whatever it takes of verifications. If he did not do his job, it's his fault also.
Yeah, but there's no easy way to verify these things. It's a problem. So, yeah, I think we're just a message for children. Go back to the streets. Go back to dealing drugs. It's so much safer.
Knocking towers down. That's the other great sport now in New Zealand. Tower pushing over. Yeah, no, it's just a noise I can't see sticking. And then someone will know the answer to this. Are police, fire and rescue exempt from these regulations in America on their machines?
I believe that there might be under some kind of loophole on the law. Because it's just like the military and police.
Watch the ambulance chases. Speaking of military, did you see that news article where the Russians said that the Mavic drones are fantastic? The DJI drone's fantastic, a wonderful piece of war equipment. That should restrict their importation into America, shouldn't it?
Let's be honest, aren't they?
Absolutely they are. They're a great bit of kit, aren't they? They're perfect.
But they did focus on DJI in that article, didn't they?
Come on,
isn't it surprising that it's being reinvented, this use case, when it's been used in every war since it came out? It's no big shocker, is it?
I recall they used doves in World War II for communication, or pigeons for World War II, and pigeons have also brought down aircraft. So I think pigeons. We need to get more regulation on pigeons. Those little things they put on their legs, remote ID.
Yeah, that was they had those rings that you put on every bird. By the way, if you keep birds, as a pet, you have to have them all tagged with those rings. So why should drones be different? Even pigeons have the remote, the local ID rings.
Hey, we have operator IDs. We do that. We put an operator ID on our drones, Louis. You know, just that we already do that. We do the same as what you have to if you keep a wild animal.
I was going to say, how often do you have to change the piece of sandpaper at the bottom of your drone's cage? Is that a frequent?
Oh,
thing?
let me check. Let me check that. I just got to go over here.
Where do you plug the remote ID module in on a parrot? Not the drone, the bird.
Let me get my parrots, and I'll check with him.
Look, Gary's gone all frozen on us. Do the song from Disney, Gary. No, he's not moving.
I think the new regulations in South Africa frozen, so it's like
someone set fire to his dunny again. I guess that's what happens over there, isn't it?
Yeah,
wild dogs and dunny fires. But did you see who saw the what is it? The RC Plane Reviewer channel. Who saw their first video? The review of RC Sailors. It was brilliant. It's about time someone came out with a channel that reviews reviewers, and this channel did, and it reviewed RC Sailors, and it ripped them a new one, pointing out that they had they'd reviewed this Horizon Hobby jet. And they were talking about, the wonders, these smart batteries with telemetry, and all of the radio's got all this telemetry built in. It's fantastic telemetry. So I flew this jet round and then crashed it because the battery went flat. And but then saying, no, that was my fault. No, it wasn't. He said, and look how good the low voltage circuitry in the ESC kicked in and saved the battery. Yeah, but look at the plane. It's terrible. Anyway, it looks very much as if the RC Sailors don't have a sense of humor, and they filed a takedown notice and had that review taken down. I think it was fair use. I think it was absolutely fair use. And RC Sailors are silly because they all have to, they don't claim to be a review channel. They're a showcase channel. There's a place on YouTube for showcase channels, which basically just take a product, show it, extol all the virtues, and then make money off their affiliate links. They don't do an objective, critical review, and people realize that. We're just showing you a new product, and this is the fun we have with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to be honest, as long as they don't masquerade as a review channel. So to have the borax poked at them, I think it was just, they should have just rolled with the punches and laughed along with it. But by having that taken down, that really paints them in a very poor light in my view. And I was waiting for them to review me. I wanted to see what they were going to say, but they may have given up now.
They're going to get a bit more of that, though, aren't they? Because people are now go, right, we can break this into little segments. So if you're going to do us for reviewing it, we're going to break it into like 10-second segments where fair use is allowed. We'll come at you that way, because that's how you will go for them.
Well, no, it doesn't even matter about the quantity. Fair use, people think, if you use 10% or less than 10 seconds, it's fair use. That has very little bearing on it. What it basically boils down to is, are you adding significant value to or extra material to the original content, and does it detract in any way from the value that the original creator is getting from their posted version of the content? So as long as you're not trying to take something and simply repost it, if you're adding lots of extra commentary and simply using it as the basis for your own material, and people aren't going to say, I've seen this version of it, I'm not going to go and watch the original, then it falls under fair use. You can watch an entire movie. These reaction videos, the reaction videos that you see on, quite often there's the entire original content along with someone stuck in the corner going, gosh, wow, woo, and they pass the test of fair use.
It's crazy.
Is Ian also frozen?
No, he's just very cold. It's England, it's summer in England. He's freezing.
Wales. It's the Welsh.
Welsh. That's right. How can I get it wrong? He's over the border.
Yeah, he's not in England. He's over the border. He's imprisoned over that side of the country.
He has to live in Wales because his channel's reliant on leaks from DJI.
Don't get Ian distracted. Otherwise, he might buy 2 of those new DJI drones. He's filling up his order.
Well, right now, do we order boats or not at the minute? Because the rain here at the minute is just ridiculous. I've got local flooding 20 miles. Well, local, I say.
The English are always complaining. It's too hot. It's too wet. It's too average.
It's true. We Brits do moan a lot.
We need rain. We've had everything on fire. We've had 8 fires locally in the last 4 days. We have a refuge tip currently burning and poisoning the air, so we need rain.
I wish you could move this camera. I'll show you the runaway fire that's going along the back here that's burnt about 1,000 hectares.
Is that your toilet, Gary? I did speculate that you were frozen because your toilet caught on fire.
Yeah, you should. Well, I don't want to get into this discussion here, but yeah, that might well be a thing. So what did I miss? Anything exciting or not?
No, we're just talking about the RC Plane Reviewer channel and their review of the RC Sailors, which was very, very good, but it's been taken down because I think RC Sailors fired off a copyright strike against the reviewer of their channel because they didn't like what they said.
Well, let them come here and see what happens. Those would be bad. Now, earlier
I just wonder if those guys will ever go to those high-profile internet promoters like the Potato Jets and that lady,
Justine.
Justine, that always do those very nice pre-release videos of whatever it comes along.
Those the showcase channels.
To see.
Showcase channels are fine. I mean, I've got no problems as long as people don't hold themselves up to be objective reviewers, with critical reviews. As long as they just say, this is a new product, this is what we did with it, we had fun, blah blah blah. Without, as soon as they call themselves reviewers, then they're in trouble. But as long as they just admit we're just showcasing, that's fine. I've got no problem with it.
Well, the voice of reason and fairness, that's something's wrong, yeah. So the loss of the towers had a major effect.
I think the tower had some crazy effect on Bruce.
The tower's behind Bruce. The tower is behind Bruce. I've been...
yes.
It lives forever on.
It lives on in our
Someone painted the tower, which is quite a feat considering how hard it is to print that on a 3D printer.
Yes, indeed, yes. And I'm just doing a promotional video for our mayor called Karen's Demolition Services.
Shame, man. So what else have we seen? We might get
no job too small, no fee too high.
Quite so. So we talked about DJI. There's very little other news.
Hold on, Gary. Did someone film the demolition of the tower?
No, they were very covert about it. And it all happened in 90 minutes. So I went out and checked. There was nothing happening. I came out 2 hours later and it was down.
Oh, God, Bruce, don't you know what these motion-activated cameras? You should have a motion-activated cameras over there.
There's too many birds. They go off all the time.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah. And they did they really do it outside of the no-timed hours?
No, they did it in the no-timed hours. They no-timed the whole day. But, I mean, they filed the no-time the day before, which was the day before the meeting that was supposed to decide the fate of the tower. So it was all preordained. And apparently what happened was the councillors were duped by the mayor. The mayor said, pass the motion, whatever. She went out and ordered the demolition. The councillors thought they had just simply agreed to look at 3 options for disposing of the tower. They didn't know they'd supposedly authorized the demolition. So this is really going to look very bad for the mayor, and the media are onto it. So the whole question of whether the mayor was ethical in her handling of this issue will be covered by the mainstream media, which I can't wait for.
Are you allowed to pull the minutes from that? Or any audio recording?
I have an audio recording because I was prohibited from filming, and I've got this footage going up too. The mayor did not want a video record of what she was about to do, so she forbid me to record anything on the basis that I could take the video and defame her, as I did in my other video where she appeared telling lies.
Hang on a minute, but you're legally allowed to record the meeting if you tell
I'm legally allowed, but I didn't. I thought, this obviously it was going to be a bun fight, and I probably would have got thrown out, and I would have to go back and assert my rights later. So I thought, well, I'll just, comply with the directive, because it's the fact that she directed me not to film in breach of my rights is enough of a, transgression in itself. But there is an audio recording of the meeting which covers the whole thing very nicely, and that will be brought in as evidence. But I've been threatened with defamation. I got a email from the mayor's lawyers, presumably being paid for by the public purse, saying I must pull down my video, the one in which she appeared to lie, because it's defamatory, and if I don't pull it down, the mayor reserves right to take legal action, which would be at a cost to local taxpayers, not her own pocket. And I spent hours drafting a very comprehensive report, and I sent it off and said, bring it on.
Sort of thing where we need to get Richard Ryan in, isn't it? And say, Richard, as a barrister, what's your legal opinion of this? Let's see, he's a good oak.
I also needed to remind her of the Streisand effect, which she probably had no clue about.
The thing is, if you've got a video of her lying, how's it deflammatory in any way, shape, or form? I don't get that.
Because it presented her as a liar, and she doesn't like that.
Look, but the video is not lying. She's doing exactly what she said she didn't do in the video. It
is again. She's proven she likes to bully people. She calls people names. She bullies them. That first time I went, she tried to bully me into stop filming, and only when she got legal advice, again at the local taxpayer's expense, got legal advice that Mr. Simpson was right. Yes, he's allowed to film. That they had to concede in the next meeting, okay, you can film. But the attempt was simply to bully me, thinking that maybe I didn't know my rights. This is a tactic that, in fact, the whole council is a culture of bullying, like the New Zealand CAA was a while back. It's rampant in this part of the world.
That's a real shame as well. Do you think any of the councillors, any of the other councillors now that are, if she's because you say she's going, are these other councillors going to actually realise, oh crap, we are now in the spotlight, or are they going to be like little bunnies with headlights on them, or what?
I think a couple do, but most of them are just blind. I mean, they're really, to be honest, in my honest opinion, most of them are pretty not very bright. I mean, if you're smart, you get a real job. It's simple as that. They really do. I mean, they're supposed to be people from everyday walks of life, but they tend to be old people that have passed their best by date and don't know what they're doing. That's why so many of these small councils are so poor in their civic performance. They don't know what they're doing. They might have been driving a bus or a truck or doing something else, and then they get put into the position of effectively steering a $30 million a year business. There's just no way they can cope.
True.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's sad all the same. Now, Siddharth is asking about Walmart's drone deliveries. They're on the way, aren't they? But they're having lots and lots of towers for people to do the VLOS bit, the VLOS extended. So, yeah.
I'll send our mayor over. She'll have those towers down in no time.
She'll have the towers down. Yeah, that's right. That's a way to stop it, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, allegedly they're coming. Still been playing with the idea of Richard's drone superhighway thing, and the more I think about it, the less and less I can see how the delivery aspect of it is going to work in a developed country.
So point-to-point delivery makes sense. Delivery to your house doesn't make sense, not by an aircraft. Anyway,
no, I'd absolutely discount that straight off the bat. The delivery to the house. That's not even. Have
you seen that? I think it's tomorrow, the 17th of August at 3:00 BST. The CAA are holding a urban air mobility and aviation next generation meeting.
It's interesting, isn't it? And the FAA have done similar meetings, and I think Australia might have done a similar meeting where they're suggesting next generation. Well, we haven't done generation 1 yet, have we?
It's still a smoldering gem on the ground.
Helicopters generation 1, isn't it, of urban air mobility? If you want generation 1,
yes.
helicopter is first. Beat the helicopter.
But big AAM, UAM people will rant at you loudly if you suggest that helicopters were the first generation. They don't like the idea that helicopters were the first generation.
Ken Moller was the first generation.
With his flying car. Yes, that's true. I
don't see how, because first generation is a helicopter. There are helicopter ports where you can drive to in cities, and you can go and you can take a helicopter ride, and it can take you to point A, B, C, D, or anything. They do exist. London Heliport is a clearly first generation urban air mobility place. It's a heliport. It's quite clear. It states it.
That's what it says on the tin. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I've been invited to quite a few AM, UAM things that people obviously don't watch this. So, yeah. So we'll have to see. Richard was. Yeah, that it's not super secret, really. It's lots of stuff, Siddharth. It is. Hello, Mick. How are you? Lovely to see you. It is intriguing, and I know they've this week they've finally worked out what their Gen 1 towers are exactly going to be, and they're getting ready to plant them in the ground. I'm unfortunately, I have to say, I think it seems like a good idea, so it probably won't go very well.
Yeah, the big money's against them. Too many people have too much to make by this UTM concept they're trying to roll out. Unfortunately, the best products don't always win. Betamax for the win, but VHS for the commercial game.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong saying that. I hope I'm utterly wrong. And one of the ways you can make it wrong is, as an industry, is saying, well, hang on, why aren't we doing it like this? Why do we have to do it in the remote ID and the other way? And, anyway.
I'm afraid that anyone that comes up with a system that requires any kind of transponder or remote ID on any aircraft at all, and their UTM needs this priority thing in it, where it's only their UTM, and it has to be this device on their aircraft. That system is now pointless. Richard's system has made their systems look shite, to be fair. Absolute crap. Because it doesn't matter what you're flying, doesn't matter if you're manned or unmanned. In Richard's world, if you're in the corridor and you're flying on his system, so your aircraft is connected to his system, they tell you what's going on around you, so you can take the avoiding action. It's not anything.
No, you don't. You don't take the avoiding action. They do. The system takes the
sorry,
avoiding
I mean
action.
the system. I mean the system.
Yeah.
Sorry, the system's telling you to take the avoiding action. Sorry. Yes, but so that manned aircraft doesn't care because it doesn't know you're there anyway. The Altitude Angel system looks after your little bubble world of your aircraft and says, we won't encroach on the aircraft by X distance. We'll just turn this way. We'll do a little circle, for example. And by the time you've done your circle, the aircraft will have gone, or we'll take you around it, or whatever. Whereas everyone else is going to have this transponder on, and you can't go inside this corridor unless you've got this particular transponder, this, that, and the other. It's going to be a pain in the ass.
Do you think businesses will accept non-deterministic delivery times, though? Because the delivery time could be massively affected by other traffic. It's not like you're going to fly from A to B. You're going to fly to A with a squiggly line or a pause here and whatever. How will that affect the commercial operation of a drone delivery service?
But do you think
when you get the delivery from Amazon, do they say the right hour they're going to deliver? They'll just they will deliver tomorrow.
They do give an hour. So the likes of Amazon, I think DPD, they do give us like a time slot. So I don't think drones will be any different. You'll get a time slot where within the 2 hours you order, it might arrive in those 2 hours, but the exact minute, that's never going to happen.
I get deliveries from Amazon from several transportation companies. And only one, I think it's DPD, that gives you a time slot. The others just say it will be delivered on Friday or Saturday, and that's it. So,
yeah, it's the same here. They say your package will be delivered today, and it arrives the day after tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having Prime.
I can follow. Just because she's saying he follows deliveries from Amazon on a map. And Andrew, I'll get James back on and we'll find out. It was another UK Innovation Group thing, and it was for the Bath Bristol area, wasn't it? It was a whole area thing of UAM more than deliveries. I seem to remember. We'll find out.
This is so like the .com boom, isn't it? So like the .com boom.
I think the
in what way?
Massive amounts of venture capital being poured into pie in the sky ideas with the promise of profit further down the track.
Yeah. And the worst thing is, though, all these other UAMs at the minute need temporary danger areas. So any other UAM at the system needs a temporary danger area, which eliminates all of the air traffic. Where the Altitude Angel system doesn't. It doesn't care, what the airspace is as such. It doesn't care about other air users, which means it's fantastic. If you're connected to their system, then that's fine. If you're not, it doesn't matter because it doesn't need to. You're not affecting the way the corridor works in any way. It's just crack on and do what you would normally do.
My documentary shows this is all going to be a big thing in just a few months' time. With the skies will be black with drones and
mobility. They're coming. They are coming. Drones are
and
coming.
Lots of them. And lots of them. To quote
exactly. Exactly.
Hey, what's going on? Did you hear what's happening with gender? The wokeness of the aviation industry.
Which one is it? It's got to be Louis. It's got to be Louis playing around with us.
Not me.
It's Ian.
Hey, I'm mute.
Yeah, but what's happening with the aviation industry? There was all this, the FAA spent millions of dollars removing all gender-specific terms from their nomenclature. And I see in Sean's latest video, in the first minute, Dave Messina from the FPV Freedom Coalition says, we're talking about UAS, unmanned aerial systems. So it's not sticking. This nomenclature change is not sticking. And then I see the CAA in the UK today announce the Women's Gliding Championships. Well, hang on a minute. When's the men's gliding championships?
It's just been.
Was it only for men?
Yeah.
Only men. You can't have a woman in the other gliding championship, really. We've got gender segregated competition. What about trans flies? Where do they go? Good Lord.
Louis got a toy.
Don't even go there.
It's
time to end, Gary.
I know. What is this going to descend into? This is going to descend into something, isn't it? It is time to end. Any more? Have we seen anything else? It's been a quiet old week. It definitely has.
I think we livened it up, though.
Did we? We livened it up. We'll see. We're coming to September. It starts to pick up again. So we'll see what happens when everyone's back from their holidays. And look forward to there being at least one truly exciting craft launch this year.
I think we'll have a big splurge in the media next week. It'll all be about drones helping people in the floods in the UK.
Yes, quite possibly. The flash floods because of the very denuded ground. But anyway, I could go on and on and on forever about that, and rivers and things like that. But dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourself. Have a lovely week. If you're in the UK, don't wash yourself away. Haven't been too hot. And we'll see you again, 2100 GMT next week. Look after yourselves, everyone.